Police are asking for help to identify a suspect in a double stabbing near Dufferin Station. They're looking for this man. He's described as between 5'6" and 5'8", with a medium build and facial hair. He was last seen wearing a black hooded jacket, black ripped pants, and white shoes, and was carrying a black backpack. If you recognize him, give police a call. And police say shortly after 4:30 yesterday afternoon, the suspect approached us and stabbed a victim from behind on the mezzanine level of a Dufferin Station. Well, he ran away and moments later stabbed a second victim at Bloor Street and Pauline Avenue. Well, the suspect didn't know the victims, and police say both the attacks were unprovoked.
Too close to home, seriously, because I live down on Dufferin and College.
The impact is huge in our society because there's people returning to school, going to work, and we stopped there. We were going to the museum and we can go, so we have to take another bus, and the impact is huge.
We don't know when these things can happen with us. Like, today is with someone here, but maybe if it was some of us here, we don't know. It's not safe.
I'm feeling worried because it can be an impact to our feeling of security.
Both victims suffered non-life-threatening injuries in the attack.
Police are investigating after two homes in the same part of Scarborough were hit with gunfire within a couple of hours of each other.
Police say the first shooting near Ellesmere and Markham Road happened around 9:20 last night. Police found evidence of gunfire after responding to a call about a shooting at a residence. A window of the home was damaged, but no one was injured.
And then just before midnight, police called to another home in the same area for reports of another shooting at a residence. Evidence of gunfire found there as well. The home was damaged, but there was also no injuries. The investigation into both shootings continues.
All right, let's talk a little bit about going back to work. We're all supposed to go back to work on Mondays, well, except for, the people working weekends like yours truly. This week will be a little bit different. We're going back from the holidays, and then also you have people going back to the office potentially all week for the first time since the pandemic hit. For the continuing shift away from remote work, let's bring in our CP24 Melissa Duggan, who is well, it looks like she's at City Hall now. But Melissa, what can you tell us about what the feeling is from all these people that now are going to be having to work 5 days a week at the office?
Yeah, Andrew, a bit of an end of an era for some workers who've been working from home since the pandemic. Maybe it's a bit of a hybrid situation. Specifically, what we're focusing on today is Ontario public sector workers. There are some 60,000 of them. What we're hearing from the provincial government is just over half of them have been working full-time 5 days a week back at the office. It was in August when we learned that they were going to mandate everyone return to the office full-time 5 days a week. So in October, it was bumped up to 4 days a week. Before that, it was 3 days a week is what we saw people working. And then starting tomorrow, things change big time. 5 days a week for those remaining employees who have been working that hybrid situation. A lot of people saying it's a good work-life balance. Some people avoiding the long commute they may have to deal with, especially in Toronto. But there has been some pushback. Not everyone wants to return to the office full time. For more reaction on this, we're joined by JP Hornick, the president of OPSEU. Thanks so much for being with us, JP.
Hi, good. Thanks for having me.
I wonder what reaction you're hearing from some of your members on this, the eve of this mandated return to work full time 5 days a week.
Yeah, unilaterally, this has been received negatively by folks who have been working in a hybrid or remote work situation. I mean, these folks have been working the entire time. This is about a return to office mandate. And it was done without any consultation with the workers themselves or with any evidence to justify this move. This appears to be a solution that's looking for a problem. These workers have been providing the services that Ontarians rely on during the pandemic and post. They've also been able to contribute more to their communities, lessen effects on the environment through, minimal commutes. We look at the work-life balance, particularly for women in that sandwich generation where you might be dealing with childcare and elderly parents. And yet what we've seen, without a decline in service, with an increase in productivity through hybrid work, A government who is mandating for no apparent reason other than to appease corporate landlords, a return to the office, even where it doesn't make sense.
What we're hearing from the provincial government as well is that this move is sort of in line with the trend that they're seeing of more of the private sector returning to the office full time. The message from Premier Doug Ford is that he thinks that workers are more productive when they are in the office. From your perspective, has that been the case?
What I have to say is there's been no evidence that demonstrates that that's true, that maybe his feeling or his attitude, which is fairly outdated about work. But when you want to retain a really talented public service, when you want to make sure you're bringing in talent, you want to make sure that they have the flexible work arrangements that even the private sector is having to backtrack on in some cases. We already have seen that the LCBO is having to delay this because they don't have space for everyone. We've seen reports where the offices where they're planning to put people are infested with rodents or there's water damage. This is a government that's clearly not ready. They're rushing the mandate, and they appear to be doing this to appease developers rather than what's good for Ontarians in the services they provide.
Yeah, there are certainly some questions still when it comes to office space. Will there be room for everyone when they return to the office starting tomorrow? I wonder what kind of options your members may have if they don't want to return to the office full-time, 5 days a week. What sort of other options can they explore here?
Well, some months ago, the government said, okay, well, we'll put in a form for an alternative work arrangement. And we've seen 10,000 forms filed out of the Ontario Public Service, but not a single one of them has been reviewed or replied to. So what we see is a government that's very big on, a splashy announcement and some optics, but very short on providing evidence that justifies the move. Or that is responsive to the workers who have arranged their lives for 5 years around a remote or hybrid work environment. We also see things where it makes zero sense. Folks who are doing site visits in community, if they have to go into the office 5 days a week, that takes time away from spent in community visiting with those clients. We also see spaces that are not ready, and we have no details on what the government's going to do to provide those additional accommodations that people may require in their workspaces.
I wonder what your message is, though. People might be thinking, listen, before the pandemic, people used to be in the office. This is just kind of getting back to the way things were. Why doesn't this make sense?
Yeah, I think a lot of us learned a bunch of lessons during the pandemic, which is that the world of work is shifting pretty significantly. This is not about people who don't want to work. People do want to work. And they want to be productive, and they want to make sure that they can bring their best selves into the services they provide to Ontarians. This isn't about not working. This is about, does it make sense in every case for people to be in the office 5 days a week? What we'd like to see is a government that works with workers, that works with the union in order to determine a solution that would actually best serve what they've identified as problem areas so that we can find solutions that will benefit all Ontarians. This isn't about the public service versus everybody. This is about the public service wanting to make sure that we are able to provide what Ontarians need and to do it to the best of our abilities. So we'd like to see a government that's willing to work with us rather than make broad pronouncements with no consultation.
OPSEU President JP Hornick, thanks so much for joining us here on CP24 today. Appreciate your perspective.
My pleasure.
So some reaction there to this change in work processes that are going to begin tomorrow for Ontario workers, those working in the private sector. Again, certainly a story we're going to be following over the next little while. What kind of impact is this going to have when it comes to foot traffic downtown, when it comes to transit, when it comes to traffic? Andrew, we've already been reaching out to Up Express, to Go Transit today, telling us that they plan to adjust some of their services based on volume, so something that they're keeping an eye on. Toronto Police is saying that they're having their congestion teams really focus on the rush hours during the morning and the evening, just making sure that, traffic is moving smoothly as it should be. Hopefully people won't be stuck in traffic, but I think for a lot of us, it is a return to the old schedule starting tomorrow, whether it is back to work, whether it is back to school. The holiday is coming to an end. Back to you.
The new normal is the old normal, and now it will be normal. That's Melissa Duggan at City Hall. Thanks, Melissa.
The province is suing Keel Digital Solutions, one of the companies at the center of the Skills Development Fund scandal.
Yeah, the software company operates a platform for mental health care. Keel received about $7.5 million in skills development funding, despite its application being lower ranked than others. In November, the OPP opened an investigation into the company after an audit found irregularities. Now, the province has filed a statement of claim alleging fraudulent misrepresentation relating to contracts with the Colleges and Universities Ministry. The suit is looking for $25.9 million.
Manitoba's Conservative MP is urging Premier Doug Ford to rethink a plan to pull Crown Royal from LCBO shelves. Ford says he is planning to yank the whiskey off of Ontario liquor stores. That's in response to the drink's maker, Diageo, plan to close a Windsor area bottling plant next month, tossing 200 out of work. But Manitoba's James Beeson claims that would only spark an interprovincial trade war. Currently, the whiskey is bottled here in Ontario, but is distilled in Manitoba.
Well, home sales in the GTA fell again last month as buyers remain on the sidelines amid a lack of confidence in the economy.
The Toronto Regional Real Estate Board says almost 3,700 homes changed hands last month. That was down 9%, though, from the same month the previous year. The average selling price dropped 5% compared to 2024. TREB says economic uncertainty weighed on the GTA housing market throughout the year, which saw total sales down 11%. The board says improved affordability has set the market up for a recovery this year once buyers are convinced the economy and labor market are back on solid footing.
Hundreds of impaired drivers were taken off the roads during the OPP's Festive Ride campaign. From November 20th to January 1st, officers dedicated more than 20,000 hours to conducting over 11,000 ride checkpoints across the province. 766 people were charged with impaired driving. 150 immediate roadside suspensions were issued to drivers who were either in the warning range or who were part of a zero-tolerance classes like novice and commercial drivers. The holiday campaign may have come to an end, but police are reminding drivers that ride programs are held throughout the year in a bid to keep roads safe.
We'll be getting our first detailed look at the 2026 city budget today. In an election year, Mayor Olivia Chow is proposing a property tax increase that is just a fraction of what it's been the previous 2 years.
CP24's Courtney Heels is live this morning, getting a bit of reaction to people's thoughts on this. And Courtney, Toronto taxpayers have definitely been on the hook for some pretty steep increases, but this time around seems much more manageable for most.
That is true. I feel like there's a sense of relief this morning, guys. Good morning. We're along St. Clair. I will say it's still very quiet. I've talked to a couple of people. Many of the people I'm talking to say they're renters. They're not really affected by this. I talked to one man who said he moved out of the city years ago because it's just too expensive. And we've heard concerns from residents over the years talking about the last two property tax increases. The proposed one for 2026 is 2.2%, so quite low. That's 0.7% for the actual property tax increase, 1.5% for the city building fund. I mentioned the last 2 years. Just last year it was at 6.9%, and in 2024 it was 9.5%. As for why, we're going to get the details later on today. There is going to be a budget committee meeting. We'll of course be attending that. We should get the full breakdown, see where the city is planning to pull money from, reserves, where they find efficiencies. Already though, some concerns and criticism why this proposed property tax increase is so low this time around. We talked to Councillor Brad Bradford about that. Here's more.
Well, obviously, Mayor Chow is in fact aware that there's an election this year, and I think affordability is important, but I am concerned that this budget is an attempt to burn the furniture to heat the house. And what I mean by that is there is a real concern that she is raiding the reserves, cashing in all of that money in order to deliver a pre-election budget that will bode success for her in the fall. My concern around that, of course, is that's not really the financially responsible way to take stewardship of the city's budget. So we will have to wait and see what the details are tomorrow.
So again, those details coming out later on this morning. We will get a sense if the city is planning to dip into reserves, where they're planning to find those efficiencies. Many, of course, will be paying attention to that. As for Mayor Chow and whether she is in fact running again for mayor, we just don't know. Many believe that is in fact the plan, and that announcement will come later on. We're going to talk to her later this morning, guys. She's actually going to be announcing the budget officially at a library, so maybe she'll kind of hint towards whether she's planning to run again. But in the meantime, we're going to work to get some more reaction to this, because it is a pretty significant drop when it comes to this proposed property tax increase compared to previous years. Over to you.
Okay, CP24's Courtney Hills joining us live this morning. Thank you, Courtney.
A divisional court has ruled that Premier Doug Ford must release logs of government-related calls made on his personal phone. In late 2024, the Information and Privacy Commission supported a Freedom of Information request filed by Global News that sought access to calls made on the Premier's cell phone, which he has used as his primary phone. Well, the province filed a request for a review asking the court to overrule the commission. Last week, the court ruled that it was likely that the Premier used his personal phone to conduct government business and that the records must be made public. NDP critic Kristen Wong-Tam tweeted, Ontario court upholds the Information and Privacy Commission ruling Doug Ford must turn over personal phone records, wasting more time and taxpayer money. He's appealing again. A Barrie woman is now facing a first-degree murder charge in the death of her child. Police found the 10-year-old dead inside a home in the Bayview Drive and Little Avenue area on New Year's Eve after being called to perform a well-being check. The child's mother was taken to hospital, and police say she was charged today after being medically cleared. A cause of death hasn't been released yet. The mother hasn't been identified, but police say she is 47 years old and remains in custody.
We'll take you live now to a library in the Junction area where Mayor Olivia Chow is taking the wraps off the 2026 city budget.
Across Canada, cities continue to feel the effects of tariff and global inflation. In uncertain times like these, every dollar matters. I think of Maria in East Scarborough. She worked multiple shifts there, long, and as a personal support worker. Then she takes the bus home to take care of elderly mom. And life is really stressful for her. I heard you. My 2026 budget is focused on one thing, making your life more affordable. This budget adjusts property tax only by the rate of inflation, at 2.2%. Getting here wasn't easy. When I took office, I inherited a $1.8 billion budget hole. We tackled the hardest problem first, which is Toronto's finances. Because when the city is unstable, people feel unstable. When budgets fall apart, services fall apart. When City Hall can't pay its bills, people suffer. Services that people relied on get cut, like TTC service. I didn't create the fiscal crisis, but I took responsibility for fixing it. I partnered with the provincial government and secured a historic New Deal that helped close a $1.8 billion gap. Now, for the first time in 23 years, our credit rating was upgraded to AA+, one of the strongest in North America. Investors from around the world are lining up to buy Toronto bonds because they have confidence in us. That saves us money. That saves you money. We made the budget more fair by shifting the burden from families like yours to speculators and luxury property buyers. Here's what fairness looks like. The wealthiest 2% of property buyers contribute $150 million more, so everyone pay less. Empty home speculators chip in another $100 million. That's $250 million shifted from everyday families to those who can afford it most. It means we can build a budget that makes life more affordable for families. Here's what that means for you. If you're a mom of two whose grocery bills keep climbing just like Natasha, our universal school food program saves you $900 by providing free healthy meal to every kid in school. DDC fares will stay at $3.35, the same price as 2023. That saves a working couple $300 a year, and we're still improving services. Just on school food and frozen fares alone, we're saving families $1,200 this year. That's more money in your pocket. Later this year, We're changing how you pay for transit. The more you ride, the less you pay, and it's going to save you even more money. And here's how it works. Tap your phone, Presto card or credit card like you always do. After 47 taps in a month, every ride is free. Automatically, no forms, no sign-ups, it just works. And after that, we'll make TTC fares even cheaper. We're giving you a break after 40 trips, not 47. So after you commute all week, your evening and weekend rides will be free. Every library branch in the city, like this beautiful building hosting us today, will be open 7 days a week. That's more free spaces and programs for families like Talia's. This budget continues our investment in rental housing that nurses, PSWs, construction workers, and teachers can afford. And if you work here, you should be able to afford to live here. In this market downturn, 7 out of 10 housing projects are ones we're leading or supporting. Shovels are in the ground now for thousands of affordable units. That's why the price of rent is coming down. If you're a renter, we're protecting you by funding more rent-safe TO inspectors to keep your building safe and in good condition. We're licensing funding to the rent bank to help. We're increasing that to working people. If they pay rent, if they fall behind and face evictions, they can go to rent bank and we'll be able to support them so they don't get evicted. We're doubling funding for the free air conditioner program to help vulnerable seniors and young families during heat waves. And homeowners can access free programs to prevent basement flooding and replace furnaces with heat pumps. Investments that will keep your costs down for many, many years to come. You told me you wanted a safer city. I heard you. We're building safer neighborhoods by investing in frontline staff. 911 wait times are now down by 75%, international standards, which is 15 seconds. We are hiring hundreds more police, firefighters, paramedics, and mental health workers, including more neighborhood community officers, and more frontline safety workers on public transit. By investing in community programs, we're helping at-risk youth choose a better path. And we're seeing real results. In 2025, Toronto has fewer murders than any year in the last 50 years. All major crimes are down. Shootings are down 43%, car thefts are down by 25%, robberies down 20%. We're making Toronto safer. Now, a city is more than buildings and balance sheets. A city is a promise we make to one another. The belief that if you work hard here, you should be able to build a good life. That an affordable home in the city where you work isn't too much to ask. When you ask how we make life more affordable, this budget is my answer. Together, we are building a more affordable, caring, and safer city for you. I'm now happy to welcome Budget Chief, who's been doing really amazing job, hard work. Councillor Carroll, take it away. Thank you so much for your work.
You are welcome. Big thanks to Mayor Chow, but the biggest thanks go to the city staff whose work made today possible, all city staff. You know, when I became budget chief, I made clear a promise to Torontonians, if you remember. We would take a disciplined, multi-year...
All right, we've been listening as Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow announces some details of the 2026 city budget, describing it as a more affordable, caring, and safer city, with the numbers revealed here, talking about the fiscal crisis that Mayor Chow says she inherited and says how she's fixing it.